Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Soul Kink Therapy. My name is Emily Letts. I am a therapeutic dominatrix based in Boulder, Colorado. And today I have the honor of welcoming Anna Woods to the podcast. Anna is a wife of a crossdresser and one half of Crossdressed UK. Crossdressed UK. So, welcome, Anna.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out. So today, one of the things that I would love to talk with you about is just honestly getting another partner perspective. I get contacted by so many crossdressers who are honestly sort of of being terrified of the vulnerability of sharing this with their wife or their beloved or the female. And I honestly think one of the reasons that so many crossdressers sort of flock to my work is because I am a cisgendered woman who is like a face on the internet and also identifies as a dominatrix and kink who is very welcoming to them, which I think is not very common. So I'd just honestly love to hear about some of your experiences as a wife in this process.
Yeah, I absolutely get why so many people would sort of, come to yourself. I think, as you say, it's a vulnerability, and I think it's quite a lonely place to be if you don't have
Yeah.
that support of your loved ones. So Harry told me around 7 years ago now. So we'd been married for 8 years already. So that was a big shock. It was a
8
bit of
years
a
in.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the biggest thing was um, I didn't even really know what cross dressing was.
Yeah.
I went to university in quite a large city in the UK, quite diverse. I've got friends in the LGBT community, but yeah, it just isn't something that's commonly spoken about. So not only was it a bombshell, it was sort of like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Um, and I think the biggest thing that I struggled with in the beginning was finding the information. Finding the information online, finding support from other people, because it's quite a scary world out there. And although the internet's amazing for so many reasons, you can sometimes go down a bit of a rabbit hole and find things that aren't necessarily true or don't really resonate with the situation that you find yourself in. So that was really difficult. And I think I asked a lot of questions that I think a lot of partners sort of think about. Did this mean my husband was saying he was trans? Did it mean
Right.
he actually didn't, want me as a woman? Did he maybe sort of prefer men? Lots of sort of questions like that. It was very much a process. I think
Mhm.
it probably took a year, all in all, for me to really
Wow.
come to terms with it. But I think it was more around there was lots of open communication. We had to be honest with each other, and I think if that hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have got to where we did, and that meant asking some uncomfortable questions on both sides. Things that you wouldn't necessarily ever find yourself talking about or imagine you'd talk about. But it did bring us closer. But I think what I found was so many of my feelings, misunderstandings, and worries were really coming from a place where society has told us what's right, what's wrong, what gender
Yeah.
norms are. And if you're not sort of conforming in those gender norms, then it's something wrong. Um, I think where we live in the UK, although I'm not judgmental of anybody, there's still some very behind the times views.
Hmm.
So we're not particularly in the place we live. Trans people, we don't have a huge trans community out in the public, should I say? Um, so yeah, anything like cross dressing or any sort of gender non-conformity is just not something we see around here. So yeah, it was a bit of a process, and I don't know what it's like in the USA, but I know in the UK. I'm 38, so I sort of, grew up in the 90s, sort of came of age in the 2000s. And anything on television to do with cross-dressing was really either over the top and related to drag
Mhm.
artistry, or it was something to be poked fun at. It was, I can think of a few television programs where there's been somebody on there that's a cross-dresser, but they were the butt of the joke.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's sort of seen as something that's very taboo and hidden, and something that's considered wrong. But
Mhm.
it wasn't until we kind of started through this journey together that I realized how common it is.
It's so common. Like,
I know.
everyone is a cross-dresser. Anytime I see I can, like, whiff it from a mile away now. I'm just
Yeah,
like, "I bet you cross-dress," especially if they're,
yeah,
like, super macho men. Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? I'm like or, like, a first responder or a veteran, I'm like, "Bitch, I bet you cross-dress." You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and, I mean, Harry in his male form, he's tattooed, he's very masculine,
Totally.
he's always presented as very, what society considers masculine. Um, so yeah, I think I would have imagined in my sort of mind before all this sort of came to light that if somebody was a cross-dresser, they would probably come across as quite effeminate anyway, and
Mhm.
that's absolutely not been the case.
It's not true.
So I imagine that's why it's probably more shocking when people do find out, it's like you would never have suspected that was a thing.
Mhm.
Um, but it was really difficult because I, it felt like everything had changed out in our relationship when in truth nothing had.
Overnight, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in truth nothing really had. He was still my
Really.
husband.
Yeah.
Um, but there was just now this sort of extra side to him, I suppose, that I had to get to know. I mean, he obviously struggled with it massively all through his
Mm.
life, from childhood through teenage years. And I think he tried to um, sort of put it to bed and kind of say, no, that's not me. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think he hid it for so long and tried to sort of suppress it that it actually made him miserable. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's why he kind of came to a point where he's like, I'm going to have to tell you because it's just making me so miserable.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it was a big shock, and it did take a lot of back and forth, lots of conversations for me to kind of feel like it was okay. Because I think in the beginning it felt like that was it. My marriage was over. This was such a bombshell. And I suppose the other thing was it felt like a betrayal. However,
Yeah.
having worked through it, I absolutely understand why he chose to keep it a secret and keep it
Yeah.
hidden because he's protecting himself. you know?
Mhm.
Um, he wanted to suppress it, he wanted to hide it and to protect himself, and I suppose to protect me as well in the long run. But
Right.
it just made him miserable. Made him
Yeah.
miserable.
Did you here's my question, because you know what it's like to be in partnership with him before he came out and after he came out. Did you suspect anything in terms of like, "Ah, he seems distant," or "He seems numbed out"? Like, could you, like, I don't know, energetically whiff the numbing or the hiding at all versus who you know now?
Yeah, it's really weird because at the time I never, I didn't think there was anything different. I didn't think there was anything wrong, and I wouldn't have said, "Oh, he doesn't seem like he's showing me his whole self, or he's sort of hiding something." That wouldn't have been the case. But since he came out to me, and I feel like we've got much closer because of it, it does seem like he's a different person in a good way. So yeah,
Mm,
I think although I never suspected anything and felt like there was anything amiss at the time, I do think there was probably this maybe level of sadness underneath that wasn't the case once we kind of came through and he
oh,
felt he could be comfortable in himself, which is amazing because, I
ooh,
can't imagine what that must be like.
you're giving me chills, like, I feel like I'm gonna tear up over here. Yeah, I think, like but that's the real thing. I mean, this is why I'm so devoted to this work is because I actually think ooh, I might get emotional one second. I actually think the majority of men walk around with this deep grief. like this deep sadness in them that they don't know. It's just like part of being a man. They don't know who to turn to. Most men don't have anyone in their life except for their intimate partner that they can be deeply vulnerable with. And I feel like I've that grief is the thing that I feel like cross-dressing unlocks. And they're able to, like, be with the cause of that grief in, like, a fun, erotic, playful way, but then does that make sense at all?
It does, yeah, it does. And I think, yeah, it definitely felt that once we'd kind of got over that craziness and that, what does this mean for us, and things sort of settled down, it definitely felt like I had, he was still Harry, but it
Yeah.
was just like this new, sort of fresher, happier version, I suppose, which was, which was really nice, obviously to see. So yeah, and I think it was great from that perspective. But then I suppose there was part of me that then became a little bit unhappy, um,
Mm.
because I mean, I suppose when you think about it, you're the woman in the relationship, aren't you? You're the one who dresses up pretty. You're the one who does your hair, does your makeup, and then all of a sudden, you're not the only one in your relationship that does that. So it's like, Harry would be waiting for a time when he could get all dolled up. And I'm there in my pajamas with my hair scraped back, no makeup on after work, so just being, what you feel comfortable in, thinking, "Oh, do I maybe not appear as attractive to him because this is just
Mm.
me normally?" And obviously, I think you've probably found with a lot of cross-dressers that when they do have that time to dress, they obviously go all out because it's
All out,
exciting.
yeah.
Whereas I suppose, well, women do go all out, don't they? Cis women do go all out if you go into an event or a special occasion.
Yeah.
But, sometimes on a day-to-day basis, you don't always do that. And then I started sort of questioning and felt quite insecure about myself, sort of thinking, well, am I not good enough now? Is he going to be judging what I'm wearing, what I look like?
Mm. Oh, wow.
Um, but that wasn't the case, and I think it just took a little bit of time for that to settle and kind of, feel it out a little bit because it was completely uncharted territory, and it's a difficult thing to. I mean, I always laugh now because it was such a difficult time. It felt like, but now we're sort of so far on from that, like 7 years. It just seems like what was the big deal? It's just clothes. But obviously at the time, it felt very different. It was very complex, but yeah.
It also just really makes me think about, the thing is, so much about my work, and I can tell you too, obviously, because I took a look around Crossdressed UK, and it's so inclusive, and it's so informational, and it's so loving, and so welcoming. So my guess is that you feel you can relate to this, but this is about liberation on all levels, right? Not just interpersonal or personal, but also systemically and community wide. Of like, I want. So I often think about how systems play into this on the deeper level, and I just think it's so interesting that competition between partners in general. And so it's almost like, or the competition with women have with other women, cis women have with other cis women, competition other cis men have with cis men. But it's interesting because a lot of times in partnership, in heterosexual partnerships, the thing is that we've been sold is like we don't have to compete with our partners because, like, I get the female space, he gets the man space, and we get to have relief from the outside world of that sort of capitalist, hierarchy. But then when a man was like, "I would like to be in your female space," it's like it just feels like potentially, like, ignites all that again. Does that seem
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it does. It does, and I think it is. It's how we're brought up in society, isn't it? And it's what we're told should be normal and is normal, and how everybody should be act and behave, and you should fit in this box, and you don't cross out, you don't come out that box. That's your box to fit into. And I think you live your life so long. Well, I lived my life so long before obviously all this happened. Just kind of, I suppose, conforming. It doesn't surprise me at all that Harry doesn't conform. He's a bit of a non-conformist anyway. He's always been a bit of a rebel, so it makes complete sense. But yeah, it's really weird to then navigate that sort of when it sort of changes those boundaries, I suppose, of this is my female space, this is what I do, and then
Yeah.
you've come into this, and it's like, oh, okay, what do we do now? But I think the biggest thing, and I always say to anybody, working through this in the relationship, is time. Is
Mm.
time, and trying to get rid of those misconceptions, and really trying to understand in yourself what it is that's making you feel that this is wrong or something you don't want your husband or your partner to do. Because I think quite often when you get to the bottom of it, it's not really how you feel, it's how you've been told you should feel.
Mm. Double snap. Like, thank you. I agree. It's like these ancestral, like, energy, like, globs onto us that it's like, wait a minute, this is not even mine. It's my dad's. It's my grandfather's. It's, it's been
Yeah.
given to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were laughing, we were speaking with someone the other day, and we were laughing because when you look at it historically, trousers didn't exist. Everybody wore
Huh.
robes and gowns, and the first high heels it was royal and noblemen, wasn't it, wanting to make themselves look bigger, and they were wearing
Uh-huh.
tights and wigs and makeup. So,
Uh-huh.
at some point someone said, hang on a minute, men should wear trousers, women should wear dresses, and stay in your lane. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, who and why decided that? So yeah, I do think it's so much of it is what we've been told we shouldn't think and feel and how we should behave. And when you take that away, actually, it's no different from, people dress up, don't they, all the time for Halloween, or they cosplay, and that's okay. So why is it, any different in any other scenario? It's clothes and makeup. So yeah, it is interesting how we've kind of been hardwired, like you say, from the ancestral side of things and society.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm curious what, since, he was sort of entering your box and it was really, there was some time also of you feeling maybe a little insecure. I'm curious, how did your perceptions of your own womanhood change with Harry entering your box?
I think it maybe made me sort of question whether I was feminine enough.
Uh-huh.
Again, that kind of comes down to, well, what does that even mean? But I did start to notice things like, you know, Harry has a certain style of clothes that he would choose to wear, feminine clothes that he would choose to wear, which are sort of different to mine. So then it was sort of like, am I feminine enough? Um, you know, do I, I don't know. It was really, really difficult to kind of just accept that he was in my space in that situation, and it made me feel inferior, I think, is
Uh-huh.
probably, um yeah, I think it was more around my appearance than it was
Yeah.
anything else.
But
Yeah.
did you I mean, because what I love how you keep saying, like, when you get down to the bottom of it or when you get to the root of it. So, what I'm hearing is him going into your space triggered insecurities maybe that you already had about your own appearance, right? And
Yeah.
so, what I love about when we get triggers is always a giant smoke signal of like, "Hey, there's something here for you to work on." So, I guess my question is, like, how did were you able to experience any healing or growing or like your own perceptions of your womanhood or your image? Did you find more acceptance for yourself or do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're right. I think if somebody's completely confident and solid in who they are, they probably wouldn't have been those feelings necessarily as deep as they were of insecurity. So obviously it did. It's
Mhm.
almost like you're plodding along and everything's fine, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe you weren't as
Yeah.
happy or as confident in your own body as you maybe
Yeah.
thought. So yeah, it did bring a lot of sort of questions and feelings to the surface, just around my own how I perceived myself and the things I was unhappy with around my own body.
Mhm.
That I thought until this happened I'd kind of accepted, but obviously
Mm.
hadn't. So yeah, there's been some healing from my side as well. And I think not just necessarily through the journey with Harry, but I think with Crossdress UK as well.
Mm.
Because we meet everybody from all different backgrounds, all different
Wow.
shapes and sizes. It's it's kind of made me think, actually, I am me, and
Ugh.
my body's been through so much. I'm a mom, and
Mm.
I've, I've before I was a mum, we were in a relationship, and before we were in a relationship, you have fun and things, don't you? So actually, my body's done a lot for me,
Mm.
and yeah, I should appreciate it more, and I should. Yeah, everybody's got insecurities. You can compare yourself to somebody who probably hates something else that you've got. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit of a journey for me. I think I had it was a bit of a shaky time because it was probably sort of 2.5 years ago I became unwell, and I was
Mm.
diagnosed with two long-term conditions, which obviously it changed my life. It changed our lives altogether. I had to give up on
Wow.
my career because before I was a nursing manager.
Wow.
So I'd done that my whole sort of life. And again, I sort of felt like I was okay, and I was, here I am. I'm accepting my body, and it kind of almost felt like it failed me. So again, it
Yeah.
ripped that band-aid back off, you know.
Oh.
And actually, obviously, since I became unwell, we started Crossdress UK. That's almost helped with that healing again. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, it definitely makes you question how you feel about yourself. Um, but yeah, I do feel like I'm in a much better place now because of
Wow.
it.
Yeah. Well, so what I'm hearing is that, like, there's like a constant negotiation with our bodies and with your body. A constant. It's like like tending the garden of your body because I could lose a limb tomorrow. Or something could happen to me. And so what I'm hearing is that being in community with people and being a support system for so many people who are maybe first time or truly diving into a very stigmatized exploration of their body has helped you continually to heal and renegotiate your own relationship with your body. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the funniest things that I remember having a conversation with Harry about was I've always been self conscious about my legs. I've always had thicker thighs. And Harry, when he's on fem, he has got a most stunning pair of legs. And I said,
That's
I am.
perfect.
Yeah, and I've always said, "Oh, I really envy you. Like that's so unfair. How have you got the legs that you've got?" And he's like, "Yeah, but at the end of the day, when I take all this off, you still got the boobs that I haven't." I thought,
Fair. That's hard to yeah, I love that so much. I love that
yeah,
that's something that like, relationships with bodies is one of my most favorite topics, and I myself have gone through, like, 3 years of chronic issues that I'm now starting to come through and recognizing that my beliefs about my body get metabolized in my body as fuel. So if I have negative beliefs about my body will hold on to those and become those negative things. Does that make sense? Like I
yeah,
used to have a lot of beliefs over the last 3 years about how fragile I was. And then when I started doing this deep, deep, deep work, I realized like, oh, I am making myself fragile by thinking, you know what I mean? So it's just like and that is also what I love about supporting cross-dressers is like they are again like this big burly like man that then and who might not have especially because they're like people in very conservative areas like who might not have access to do that deep inner work because it's not in their culture but then getting to be like foster the softness with them and to rediscover their bodies. It is so liberating for my own relationship with my body. That's so
yeah,
beautiful. That's so
yeah,
beautiful.
definitely. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I can absolutely see that. And the thing is, I think as well. it's such a non-judgmental space in the community, just full stop. I think
Yeah.
because we're in that sort of I always laugh because I feel like I found my people, which seems like the most bizarre thing because I've always sort of been quite comfortable or thought I was comfortable as who I was. And it wasn't until we've started Crossdress UK and we've met people now who, we've supported along the journey. We recently did an in-person event where we met people from all over the country, some people who we'd spoken to online, other people we'd never met before. And I just felt
Wow.
like we were like so just amongst our people. It was just such an amazing feeling to kind of think, yeah, everyone was just so lovely. And yeah, it's really difficult to explain, but it just felt like it clicked. Even though I myself am not a cross dresser, obviously, it just felt like this whole sort of circle and community of people. It just felt like real supportive and loving.
It's so interesting. First of all, I love that so much, and the fact that my dream is to one day do in person an event. I'm launching this online cohort right now, which is wonderful, and it's called Outrageously Her, and it's coming together. But like the idea of doing an in person event, also where like all the girls get to get dressed up together, and I get to get dressed up too, and I love that you said like even though I'm not a crossdresser, I still feel that deep belonging, and when I hear you say that, it's just like, that's because we're all honoring and worshiping the feminine. It's like it doesn't matter what body you're in, it's the feminine archetype, which has given us all so much, whether it is the feminine archetype of a mother or the feminine archetype of, like, the whore, you know what I mean? Or the feminine archetype of the witch or the priestess or it's just like the feminine holds us all in terms of the earth holds us. It's just and to see that done so beautifully and so embodied by a person who's assigned male at birth, it's like, I don't know, it's just like, oh, it's such a spiritual experience.
It is, I think, as well. What I found really amazing, and again, another reason why it kind of feels like it just fits in the community is, the world's a very scary place at the minute, and there's a lot of horribleness, a lot of sadness.
Mhm.
I've
Mm.
always sort of considered myself a feminist, not
Mhm.
extreme, but that's kind of been
Yeah.
my sort of values and views have kind of been that. And what's been really lovely is a lot of the people we've met. Um, if you saw them in their male form, you would probably wrongly stereotype them as
Yes.
maybe being somebody who I'm the man, I'm the big alpha male sort of thing. But actually, they have so much respect for the feminine. They have so much
Yeah.
respect for women. Um, and again, that's so lovely to be surrounded by people who kind of there's not that pressure and not that sort of competition between, you know, men should do this, women should do this. You're just kind of all together. And that, again, that's probably part of the reason why I feel like I'm, at one with the community. I feel like I
I
found my
love it.
people.
I love it. So I wanna get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty because, as a partner of a crossdresser, like, you have so much actual tools because and I guess my question is like I would love to know more about like the nitty-gritty of what happened within that year, and I hear you say of like, oh, you went through your own confrontation with your own feminine and all this different stuff, but like what did you experience that could be great lessons or learnings for people who are, especially partners who are trying to navigate this for the first time with their own? Because honestly, the most common thing I hear is my wife knows about it because she found blank, right? She hates it, but she doesn't, she's not breaking up with me, so we have a don't ask, don't tell. Or we have or she just doesn't want to know about it. So I can like sneak in 30 minutes when she's not home, but I have to put everything, which in my mind is like that is a terrible existence. Like that would be terrible as for everyone to know about it and for you to be so caged feels like a terrible existence to me. So, yeah, I would just love to know, what is your advice?
Yeah, I think I very much sort of after that first initial shock wore off and I'd kind of done a bit of thinking about it, I didn't feel that I could stay in a relationship with Harry where he had to live like that.
Ugh.
Partly because I'm too nosy, so I would be I would be thinking, if I wasn't part of it, I would have a bit of FOMO, I think. I'd have that I'm missing out or what's he doing? And, I think and there was part of me that was curious as well. There was,
Mm,
and I think there's a lot of partners that just shut it down and are like, "No, I don't want anything to do with that." There was part of me that was curious, and I think allowing myself to be curious kind of gave me that, almost bravery to say, "Okay, let's talk about this some more." And then, "Okay, what about if you maybe show me a picture of you dressed?" And we did it gradually though, and I think I'm very lucky
mm,
that Harry told me because I think I've heard from so many people where they've walked in and found them dressed, and I think I can't imagine what that must be like from a
mm,
shock perspective. So I do know that our
mm.
situation in that sense is
So
different.
that would be a very you think that would be a very different, like, introduction to this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it's I think you'd still be able to work past it. I just think it would just be very much more of a shock. But yeah, I think
Mhm.
my advice is to be curious. Be curious about what they're doing and why they're doing it and what that might look like, but also be curious with yourself and how you kind of feel about it. I mean, the biggest thing for me, I was so worried was when Harry dressed the first time that it was going to give me the ick. I was really
Yes.
concerned. I thought there is nothing worse than, kind of he's opened up to me. We've kind of got to where we are. I've said, let's do it. Let's see you dressed up. And then for me to think, oh no, that's awful. That was genuinely what I was worried about because you can't
Yes.
help that, can you? You can't. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Um, And I didn't feel that. I didn't feel it. We
Wow.
did laugh because he put about 50 layers of clothing on. Um,
That's so cute.
and then obviously from there we did go down some styling things. But yeah, no, I didn't feel like that. It was weird for both of us. He was obviously very vulnerable. I was very conscious about what my face would look like. I didn't want to hurt him. And
Yeah,
I was so petrified of my facial expressions sort of maybe betraying me. But
yeah,
actually, I don't know what I imagined in my head. I really don't know what I thought was going to happen. But
yeah.
it was still Harry just wearing
Mm,
different clothing and a wig,
wow. Okay,
so
I love that you brought up the ick. I think that's what a lot of partners experience, especially if it's this feeling of disgust and revolt, right? Even if they love their partners, even if they have a great relationship with their partners, somebody recently reached out to me, like their partner, they're engaged and she found out about it, and they've been together and they've tried dressing a few times, and then she was like, "No, I don't like this." But he's just like, how do I how do I, like, marry this person if I can't be out in the open with this really important thing? So it's like they're still going to on track to get married, but, so it's like, h h like, why do you think women get the ick? And, how do they be with it? How do they resolve it? How do they soften it?
it's a difficult one, isn't it? But for me, again, I think there's that societal expectation of what a man should look like, and when they're
Mm,
dressed as a female, that doesn't feel right. I think that's something that has to be addressed. But I think one thing that it did for me was, I've always considered myself heterosexual, straight, and that's kind of been who I am. So then, how do I have a husband, a man, cis man, who dresses as a woman? How could I possibly be attracted to that person? For me, that was really
yeah.
like, how does that even work? Um, and I think once I kind of broke that down and was like, "Does it really matter? Does it really matter what that would make me or what that would mean for me?"
Mm.
Um, and I think, again, we just didn't rush anything. We built up to it, so it wasn't a case of, straight away, full makeover, anything
Yeah.
like that. We started off small, so it wasn't sort of, and I was honest, and I did have to say, because I think what a lot of people have explained is that it they want to do it all because they've never told anybody, and now
Mhm.
you're there and it's out in the open. It becomes all you talk about. It becomes,
Mm.
the topic of conversation just dominates everything. And I did have to say to Harry a few times, look, can we just not talk about it today? Let's just have a day off from thinking about it. And likewise with the, doing things at a slower pace, making sure, I think if he'd have shown me straight away, I don't know if I'd have got the ick, but I think there would definitely have been more of a chance that that would have been the case. I almost like needed to
Mm.
prepare myself for it.
Mm.
Um, and I think I did that by just sort of thinking, he is still him. He doesn't want to be a woman. It doesn't change who I am as a woman. It doesn't change my what I know about myself and my sexuality. And I don't have to like it. And I think that was because I'd said that to myself. I'd prepared myself for it. It was fine. I think if I'd have
Mm.
gone into it thinking I must like it, I must think it's okay, I must accept this, it's putting a lot of pressure on yourself, isn't it? I think it's
Yeah.
kind of understanding that you're gonna feel what you're gonna feel, and you can't kind of change that. But I think it's being okay with those feelings, and then trying to be curious about those and where they've come from. Um,
Ugh.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is like it's you have to expand your nervous system slowly. 'Cause your nervous system, what I'm hearing you say is also like as humans, we can have up to 7 categories at any time. Like we can have sense of 7 things in our peripheral vision, right? And we have to categorize things to put them into like safe, not safe. And especially I feel like for women who is like, is men safe? How do I receive to men? Like there's a lot of safety factors in this. Because if you think about an ick, it really is like, that's not safe. Like, it's almost like, when we think about things that we find disgusting, and it's an evolutionary tactic to make us stay away from those things, like snakes or, do you know what I mean? Incest or things that are like gross, ick. We stay away because they could hurt us. And what I'm hearing is like recognizing that because a man in women's clothing who's not trans, because it is different, right, than trans. Because as trans, there's just like, no, 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 you belong, and I'm now going to place you out of man box into female box, and like that. And I feel right, that's your justice. That I believe in that. But it's a different thing when a man wants to hang out in the female box for just a moment, and then go back. Then it feels like our ability to categorize and understand what's safe or not is quite disoriented. So what I'm hearing you say is like if you get the ick, like hold yourself and tell yourself like you are safe, like you are okay. This is the first part of your nervous system beginning to open up and warm up to the possibility, and you don't have to go anywhere. It doesn't have to ultimately go anywhere, like you have to like it, but it is important for you to, like, calm yourself in those moments of reaction so that you can get to the other side of it, and then you all can assess when you're not activated, what works, what doesn't work, how do we wanna move forward, does that sound right?
yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, it absolutely is. I think, you know what, it's almost like you have to be prepared for the
Yeah.
fact that you may feel that way. And but being okay with that, it doesn't mean that if you feel that way, that's your relationship over, or you don't have to be a, you go down that don't ask, don't tell policy. That initial reaction doesn't mean that's how you're gonna feel about it forever. So
Mm.
yeah, I think because I'd done a lot of building up to it, and because we'd kind of taken our time to kind of get to that point as well, Yeah, it
Mm.
did feel, and my reaction surprised me. I did think, "Okay, we need to think about some styling advice here." And
Yeah.
Harry does joke about it now because he did. I think he was so excited to be able to kind of show that side of himself that he just like kind of wanted to put everything on, and it was like, oh no, that doesn't kind of go with that, and But I didn't I wasn't disgusted, and I didn't kind of go, oh, it wasn't that kind of reaction, and
Yeah.
that was nice, but I was also prepared for that being the reaction,
But
and
again,
and.
because you had spent so much time building safety in your system
Mhm.
beforehand, so you could open to it. I'm now beginning to realize that people who have a don't ask, don't tell situation, it's like they got their partners got frozen in the ick. Right? It's like they felt the ick and they were like, "We will never speak of this again because it gives me an ick and I don't know how to be with an ick." But really an ick is a one emotion that like it's sort of like climbing a ladder if you're afraid of if you've never been on a high like walking on a mountain before. It's just like, "Ooh, that like the perception of danger is often so much and more intense than the actual threat. And so people who don't ask, don't tell, it's like they froze themselves in the perception of danger with the illusion that that's going to make them safe. When in reality, that frozenness in that danger is eroding intimacy in their marriage. Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people who's like, we've had a don't ask, don't tell for 20 years. And oh, yeah, we stopped having sex 10 years ago. And no, 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 I don't tell her anything. And yeah, yeah, we're just roommates now. It's like, that's because y'all got frozen.
Yeah, and I'd made that decision before we kind of entered that me seeing Harry for the first time because I'd obviously before that even happened gone online and I'd gone on Reddit and I'd gone on all these websites and
Right.
I'd seen so many other partners have this don't ask, don't tell policy and I just thought that's awful. Like
That's
how could you not?
awful.
How could you? And I understand why people do, but I just how what does that do for you, for that closeness, for that intimacy? Even in conversation and just being near each other, I just don't think I could know that there was this part of my partner and not kind of be okay with it and just kind of ignore it. Um, so I'd already decided in my mind that that wasn't going to be the case for us.
Mm.
Um, and we would make this work one way or another. And if it was that we just weren't compatible, anymore after trying and working our way through, then that would be how it would have to be. Because
Yeah.
if I couldn't accept Harry's, the whole of Harry, then
Mm.
for me, after trying, and I don't just mean like seeing him the one time and be like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we'd have tried and we'd have talked and we'd have gone through this process and
For
it still
years,
wasn't right,
probably.
yeah, it
Yeah.
still wasn't right, then that would have been the time where I think we'd have both said, this isn't working because we clearly want different things,
Yeah.
and I think that would have been absolutely fine. And I think some people do that. But I knew before we kind of started, going through that process that we wouldn't that would be the two options for us. We either made it work in a way that was comfortable and safe for both of us, or we would end up, you know, not being compatible and splitting. And I think if people kind of have that in their mind,
Yeah.
if you're open to that, trying to understand, it really does change your perception on so many different things. And
Mm.
yeah, I think just having that curiousness and kind of being like, if I feel whatever I feel, that's okay. Maybe need to think about that later. But just being kind to yourself, kind to your partner, and just don't put too much pressure on it. I think
Mm.
that's huge. I think a lot of people, like we've spoken to, it's been like that first initial seeing them or something similar. You have to make a decision now that's going to affect the rest of your marriage, and it's like you don't.
No.
you, you
Yeah.
know, even if that first time seeing them is awful and they're embarrassed and you get the ick, and it's just it doesn't mean that you never try it again. It's kind of
Mhm.
talking through, isn't it, and being like, how did that feel for you? Why did that kind of And it did we have conversations and we had conversations that we would never have spoken about things like that
Mm,
before, and we are much closer for it, which is amazing. Um, but yeah, I think it is just having taking that pressure off, being curious, and just sort of acknowledging that however you feel is how you feel. You
mhm,
don't have to try and fight it, and kind of just do it slowly. You
mhm.
don't have to all of a sudden be like, okay, this is happening, so now we're going to go out dressed together on girls' nights out at the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
going to. I mean, it might for some people, but I think for most that would be, that'd be quite a lot quite soon. But yeah, that's how we
What
kind of
I'm
got through it.
what I'm also recognizing is I'm having an assumption that because you were like, "No, no, I wanna know my husband. No, no, I want to walk through the discomfort of whatever it brings up for me in order to be, the most loving partner I can for my husband." My assumption is that your husband, um is somebody who's has been very generous with you, very loving and very, like, does that same sort of walking through his own discomfort to hold you. And 'cause there's this I list who somebody said this recently, which is like, you know, like, it's easy to be generous with your partner who's already been generous to you. And
Yeah,
this feeling of generosity, now that's not. And so when I think of this, it's just like, not every couple actually knows how to do that with each other, because by the time that cross-dressing will have come up, like, it could be that the generosity has already dried up in the relationship, and there's already so many other things that don't have to do with cross-dressing that have been calcified for so long. But because and haven't been tended to and cared for and held each other in the discomfort with love and compassion and care. But because, again, like, it sounds like you guys had that beautiful tending to already, this was a process you were willing to go through with an open heart. How does that sound?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Harry's amazing, and I've always said I am so lucky to have found somebody like
Mm.
him. And I still stood by that at the time when we were going through this sort of the difficulty of me finding out because
Hmm.
yeah, we have had a loving relationship. He is very generous. We match each other's energy as well, and we pick
Oh.
each other up when one of us is down, and we bounce off each other. And that's just, how we've always been. We've always been really compatible in every aspect of our relationship. So I think
Mm.
there was a little bit of sadness there as well when it was like, you've kept this from me.
Mm.
And I felt sad that he hadn't told me because it was like, you've
Yeah.
been carrying that by yourself. And
Mm.
actually, we could have done that together. So I can absolutely see why, if somebody wasn't necessarily feeling loved and secure and like that generosity, as you say, was there, why that would maybe be something that they wouldn't be willing to explore because, the relationship maybe wasn't where mine and Harry's was at the time.
Yeah.
However, what I will say, not only has it brought us closer, but it almost shed a new light on our relationship. It almost was like a new beginning, really, and like a fresh start.
Mm.
So I actually think maybe people who have things have maybe gone a bit stale or things have just become forgotten about, and you just get going through the motions and living everyday life.
Mm.
It actually brings something new and exciting to your relationship as well. So I think if people can get past that get past that fear and work through it definitely can bring you so much closer and bring so much more joy and excitement into your life.
Mhm. What I'm also hearing is, like, it's an opportunity because I think about couples who have just been walking the motions, right? Like, they've got kids, they've got their, like, wake up at 5, and because they become sort of distant roommates, those couples. It's like, by learning how to communicate, because it asks a lot from the cross-dresser, right? But it's like, if you're the one who is instigating this, like, you can use this as motivation to learn how to communicate authentically. Learn how to bring your vulnerability here and learn, like, how to request, like, Like, "I love you, I wanna bring you something vulnerably, can you be in this with me?" And that takes an open heart, and most men don't know how to do that in their masculine form. I think they do have more access to that in their feminine form.
Yeah. And I think again that was a process for both of us because, and it wasn't really until this came out that we realized that we'd been open with each other to a point, but we'd never fully been open with each other.
Wow.
Even though we were in this loving, caring, generous relationship from both sides, there was still so much that, we hadn't been open about. So
Hmm.
that came easier for me. Obviously, as you said, in Harry's male form, he finds that difficult. In his female form, he found that easier. But again, it still took a lot of, it's almost unlearning, isn't it? You're
Mm.
almost
Yeah.
unlearning what is considered, your communication style, I suppose. And saying things that, I don't know, just without that fear of of
Mhm.
hurting each other, I think. That was what we
Mhm.
kind of came down to. We need to be absolutely brutally honest, not in a cruel way and not to be horrible to each other, but just about genuinely how this is making us feel right now. And that's so hard to do
It's
on
so
both
hard.
sides.
I think that's one of the reasons why I'm launching this Outrageously Her, program. It's a cohort for crossdressers. It's 4 months. But it's the idea of, like, cross-dressers, come into this flock where we're gonna teach you, like, to learn how to express yourself, learn those skills to actually say, like, "I feel this and I feel that," because it's not taught to men. Like, it's just not taught to, and to be able to do that with other men who are going through something so similar as you, which is so stigmatized, I think is just so special. And that is actually the transition I want to now go into, because I'm dying to hear about Crossdressed UK, because it seems like you guys, the two of you, and the thing that you've built has provided that space for so many people.
Yeah, I mean, it started off really as a seed of an idea. Obviously, because life is life, and I became
Yeah.
unwell. And then, whilst that was happening, Harry got made redundant because, of course, from his job. And he worked in,
Wait, what does that mean?
oh, sorry, yeah, it means he lost his job. I don't know what the word is in
Like,
what you'd use in the USA.
fired?
Not when you're fired, it's where they get rid of a lot of people to save money.
Okay, yeah, yeah, but it's like let go, but
Let
it's
go.
like a okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. He was let go because they were doing lots of restructuring and things. Now, Harry, by background, is a web and applications developer, so that is what he's done all his life. And we had this sort of bit of an idea. We do run like a marketing and web design agency aside from Crossdress UK, but then we kind of had this, but it almost started as a bit of a joke. Can you
Hmm,
imagine if there'd have been something out there at the time and then it
hmm,
kind of went from there? So we created the website and we're nearly a year old now. And I think what we had
wow.
originally intended was for it to be for cross dressers and their partners. But actually, what we're finding is that we have so many different people coming to us that are maybe questioning or sit somewhere else on the gender diverse spectrum who don't know where to go to because if you're not non-binary and you're not trans or you're not
Right,
sure, where do you go? Do you
right.
know what I mean? And so we've had people of all ages really, that we've we've asked for support, and we've had parents who are supporting their teenagers going through this as well.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, it just something that started off as a little bit of a joke has grown. And honestly, me and Harry both say that our life is so much richer for it, and the people we've
hmm,
met have just been so amazing. And I think the idea behind it was we just didn't want anybody to go through what we did alone, and to
yeah,
be able to searching for that information and finding horrible things or scary things or not being able to find enough information on the different things. So that's where the idea came from. And as I say, we've been to different events, we've met different people. I mean, one of the things that struck me recently is we've attended an event that is quite close to where we live, and it's a group of crossdressers and their partners, and it's been going for years.
Yeah.
And people generally, the majority of people in the group are 60 plus,
Yeah.
and there's people in that group that have never told a partner. They're in their
Yeah.
70s and they've never told a partner. Or there was somebody there that told a partner who didn't accept it. Then they got another partner that did.
Mm.
And then within a year, she'd passed away. So they'd
Oh.
finally found their person. And it was like, oh, and hearing these stories, and obviously they're in their journey very differently. I think what we tend to find is people are coming to our website, landing on our website when they are confused. They
Yeah.
don't know who to turn to. They don't know where to get this advice from. And that's what they end up with
Mm.
us. And, we get people who reach out. We signpost again to people who maybe need more specialist support.
Yeah.
We don't pretend to be mental health professionals or anything like that. We do have a big resource directory. We've got quite a lot of links now with the different charities as well to be able to make sure people know where they can go to. But yeah,
Mhm.
it was just about creating that community, and so people didn't feel like they were alone for cross-dressers and for partners, because I
That
think that's
is
something that I felt like we were missing when we went through it.
that is so inspiring. Yeah, right before this, I was just, like, zooming through your website. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to contact this person. Oh my gosh, I need to talk about this person and invite this person to the podcast." It's such a beautiful resource. I mean, and that's just you can just feel the love that was poured into it as well. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I just wanna say, Anna, like, I feel so inspired by you, and I
Oh,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much for all of the work that you've done and the way that you've taken. This is the thing that I love most when we take the things that terrify us and then we sit with them and we look at them and we dance with them. And then eventually the thing that terrifies us becomes our greatest strength and like something we're deeply passionate about. That hero's journey is just I am obsessed. Like I get off on it. It's like, oh, this is I just want this everywhere for everyone. And so hearing your hero's journey, it's just like, yeah, you're definitely a hero. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, would you mind sharing on podcast the website? How do people find Crossdressed UK?
Yeah, so we're crossdress.co.uk, and on socials, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest, and we are just at Crossdress UK on there. So yeah, you can find us
Perfect.
anyway there.
Perfect. Yay. Thank you so much, Anna, and so many blessings on all of your very impactful work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.